So good morning, everyone. Hello, guys. Thank you very much for joining our session, which is going to evolve around several topics about decentralized finance, right? And we're going to start. This session is going to be like consisting of three parts. First one, I'm going to talk a little bit about tokenization and asset management. Then we're going to have a little bit more interactive session with Q&A, with actually a conversation with you guys about tokenization. And the last part is going to be about decentralized finance with Renat from SRisk. So my name is Olga Feldmeier, and I am CEO and co-founder of Smart Valor. Smart Valor is actually a small company, startup, based in Crypto Valley. We are altogether 14 people today. We are part of Thomson Reuters Accelerator. And if you guys don't know what Crypto Valley is, I don't know, everybody have heard about Crypto Valley? Well, it's in Switzerland, and everybody thinks, well, Switzerland, there are chocolate cows and maybe a little bit of offshore banking. It used to be this way, but today we have, the whole ecosystem, and a lot of blockchain companies come into this little canton Zug. Why? Because, the regulatory environment is quite open and progressive. The first Silicon Valley Bitcoin blockchain company that came to, one of the first, of course, that came to Zug was Xapo. I used to work for Xapo, that's a Bitcoin wallet. And we actually achieved a lot in Switzerland in terms of regulatory solution for Bitcoin business back then in 2016. And also one of the first companies, of course, were Ethereum, right? That was with Charles here. So today this is quite interesting space to be, right? In Zug, in Crypto Valley, we have already 100 companies, probably, and I think our location is gonna grow because of the regulatory advantage we have there. So what do? We are basically building a decentralized marketplace for tokenized alternative investments. And you guys probably know alternative investments. This is basically everything that is, private equity, venture capital, private debt, and infrastructure projects, right? We started to talk to a lot of investors in Switzerland, and it's funny actually that this is the way how people from outside perceive us, right? Everybody agrees, this Bitcoin, this ICO, this space, this is a huge bubble. It's gonna burst so soon and so quickly, and like, oh my goodness. And then it's funny, then shortly before they leave, they actually also ask, so, and by the way, how do I buy Bitcoin? So that's quite funny. And very few people understand that, from cryptocurrencies, from the token being, solely a cryptocurrency, the whole space now moved into the direction where we have asset-backed tokens, right? We have tokens that power the protocols that will become maybe a major part of infrastructure, right? We have tokens that are based by equity in the companies, by startups, right? And this is quite new. Maybe a little bit background, so what is actually tokenization? In a classical sense, tokenization is actually the process of substitution of sensitive data with non-sensitive element. And we have a lot of application cases in payments and in security. This is not new. Now the difference to securitization. Securitization is basically taking illiquid assets or several illiquid assets and combining them into financial security. The tokenization is actually the next step. It's representation of asset through the cryptographic objects, through the unique identification code, and making it possible to transfer ownership with this token, recorded on the blockchain network, right? So that's the key difference. And the advantage of tokenization is obviously that you can represent any physical object, any asset, right, with a token that lives on the blockchain and where the ownership is easily transferable, right? So you can unprison basically any asset and make it more easily transferable. The problem with tokenization is so that, the whole idea of trustless machine of, that you don't need to trust somebody, this kind of disappears because you need to, how do you make sure, that this one cow tokenized, that it's really there and that you hold the token, or that the gold is really in the vault. So you need a central authority to ensure that, those tokens are really asset-backed. And connected to this problem of ensuring ownership is actually the topic of depositories, right? Where the ownership is recorded. The advantage of the tokens living on the blockchain is that the place where the token is, sold or bought is the same place where the ownership is recorded, right? On the blockchain, on the Bitcoin blockchain. This is the same space. This creates this instant and fast execution and so on, right? This is a little bit different today in the financial markets, where you have stock exchange, but this is not the place where ownership is changed, right? DTCC, that's, the biggest custody today of tokenized, of digital assets. They hold probably around 40 trillion of assets, right? But this is decentralized entity. And to enable this real-time fast execution, we need to depart from, centralized depository and move into the direction of blockchain-based depositories. So this is actually already started to happen. Today we already have money with decentralized storage. We are moving in payments in this direction. Obviously, Ripple was the first company to look into the space of decentralized payments. And recently, I believe several months ago, even Visa said that they're going to implement decentralized payment network. They, I guess, submitted patent for something called blockchain-based digital network asset, right? So we will see more and more incumbents in the industry moving into this blockchain-based payment networks. The next big breakthrough will be with ownership and depositories for financial assets. That's also going to move into more networks that is distributed and blockchain-based. And the big one is, of course, ownership of physical assets, right? And here we are talking about the cases like you probably heard about in Sweden. Sweden is moving their land registry on the blockchain, right? Or for example, in Switzerland, we have in Geneva, the first company registry that is already moving on the blockchain. In Zug, we have the first application of identity on the blockchain. So if you're a citizen of Canton Zug, you already enjoy all the benefits of blockchain-based identity. And those are all very important things. They are actually enabler of this tokenization if we want to have it implemented in a proper way. We need digital currency, we need decentralized registry, and we need digital identity. Those put together, they would create a perfect infrastructure for this. And of course, this is a very long process, right? It's not just about technology, it's about regulatory change. It's about changing processes in governments, right? And in governance. And this is, of course, going to take a while, right? This is why with blockchain, we're not actually talking about disruptive technology. It's not a disruptive technology where, from now to tomorrow, everything is changed, right? It's more foundational technologies that are going to change over the long period of time the way things work. Now, if you look at the practice of tokenization of assets, you could see there are different areas, right? You can talk about physical assets, and there are a lot of good examples in commodities, right? Tokenized gold. You buy a token backed, 100% backed by gold. This is already implemented in several companies. Also in art, this is a big one because art is very illiquid. Interesting investment space, but illiquid, right? You cannot buy Mona Lisa. I mean, it's very expensive acquisition, right? But you can buy a token representing 1 millionth of Mona Lisa. That's going to be quite a game changer in this industry. We at Smart Valor, we're looking more into direction of real estate and privately held companies. Actually, venture capital was the first one to move into direction of tokenization. Probably you all guys here last year, beginning of this year, there was a first venture capital company, blockchain capital that created, that issued tokens backed by their venture capital fund, right? And we're going to see more and more funds going this way. Why? Because actually venture capital is a quite interesting industry, growing. I think in the last 15 years, the number of venture capital companies increased by multiple 3. There are about 900 companies today. Last year, new closed funds, about 400. Capital raised last year, 55 billion. We're going to be even higher this year. And imagine from that amount, already 3.5 billion raised in ICOs, right? It's quite a significant number. But the limitation of this asset class is obviously, that you need to put significant amount of money if you want to become limited partner. It's a liquid nature. You're stuck in there for at least 5 years, right? And access is also non-trivial problem. So what tokenization does to venture capital? It creates more accessible through cutting, into a lot of tokens, so the smaller size, more accessible asset class, higher liquidity, because those tokens can be traded on the secondary market. They do not become liquid just through tokenization, but they become more liquid, right? More easier to transfer and to trade. And obviously also, that drives intrinsic value. Liquidity premium, if something can be bought and sold, it's more value. And with right design of tokenomics, you can even create a better alignment between limited and managing partners. So this is actually our value proposition for VC companies. Access new capital channel. Today with crypto, we have this borderless global capital, and people from China and Russia can invest today next hand to Silicon Valley. This is unprecedented democratization of finance, right? And when people say ICO is a bubble, it's already 3.5 million, I think this is nothing. There is so much liquidity in the system. There is so much capital unable to access interesting investment opportunities. So this is just the beginning. And the same is going to happen with private equity. Private equity is also a very interesting investment category. It's a huge industry of 2.5 trillion. Very strong performance. If you look at how, for example, within the last 15 years, if you would invest back in 2000, $100, right? If you would go for venture capital, you wouldn't be very well off. If you would go for public markets, you would be somewhere around 7% annual performance. If you would invest in private equity, you would actually make double. So the average performance in private equity class was around 14%, right? Was secondary in private equity even higher. But the same problem here, huge stakes, you need at least several millions. This is actually only for institutional investors or ultra-high net worth, and also illiquid nature of this asset, right? So we try to think about what tokenization can do to this industry. What is the size? How much, tokenized funds we're going to see in the next years? And it's very possible, if you look at those numbers, this is like 55 billion was raised in venture capital last year, around 70 billion in secondaries, and 350 in private equity. And if you just assume, so like today we have already 6% in venture capital going through ICO, through tokenization, fundraising. And if, for example, in 2025, 20% of those flows will be tokenized, we're looking at something around 30 billion, money raised through token issuance. This is a possible scenario. Now, even bigger opportunities in real estate. And real estate, we are talking about two different project types, right? The one is in property, so the property is already built and you can participate in this one. This is basically the same as crowdfunding, right? Crowdfunding took off approximately 5 years ago, was reaching around 4 billion last year, and this is actually also just the beginning. There are estimates that within the next 7 years, the volume of deals and capital flowing into crowdfunded real estate is going to reach 300 billion. This is important because real estate construction, real estate development, this is very, very frictionless business. There are a lot of intermediaries in this process. It is said that up to 50% of the value of real estate is lost, not lost, but goes to intermediaries, banks that finance the project, funds and distribution agents and so on, right? By enabling investor to participate in real estate construction projects, right? You cut out all those intermediaries. You can structure a token representing a carried interest in a real estate project, right? And create much more interesting smart contract coded structuring within this tokenized asset, right? And this is actually a very, very new development, very new field. We're going to see a lot of different interesting business models there. And this is basically it. I think the most important thing with tokenization is think about creative new structures, but also look into regulatory space. And I think in Switzerland and Liechtenstein, we are very well positioned to create a great new business models there. So thank you very much. This is it.